This is Michael Orl of MobileBurn.com, and today I have with me the Sanyo SCP-2700, an entry-level messaging device for the Sprint network. You can see the device has a 4-row QWERTY keyboard, normal D-pad, call end and send buttons over here on the outside, dedicated back button, and a dedicated text messaging button. You hit this button, it automatically brings up the text editor. Very normal D-pad and 2 soft keys. On the left-hand edge, we have the volume control, oddly placed camera shutter button, and a micro USB charging port, which is nice to see. Got a 2.5mm headphone port on the right, nothing up top, nothing on the bottom, and a 1.3 megapixel camera over here on the back. You can also notice there's a very strange, checker pattern on the back. I'm not really sure what they were going for here. It's very odd looking, especially around where the Sprint logo is. Bit of a design mistake, if you ask me. Getting back to the keyboard, zoom in a little closer here. The keys feel quite nice in general, but they do have a bit of a wobble in them. You don't really notice it while you're using it, but they are kind of rubbery feeling when you just move back and forth here. Otherwise, they work really well, except for the backlighting. If I unlock the device here with spacebar and the back key, which I find to be a little odd, you can see that the backlighting makes them wash out. It's probably not as much of an issue on the blue version of the device, but with the pink version, in any kind of middle lighting, maybe an office environment or something indoors, that backlight makes the keys really hard to read. It looks fine in a dark room, and it also looks fine outside in bright light, but in a lot of situations this is going to be a bit of a problem. You can see now that we have the device activated, the left soft key by default brings up messages, contacts is on the right soft key, and there's also that text button here if it automatically creates a new text message. So we'll send a new message to John Doe here. You can see we've got predictive text on it and T9, even though this is a QWERTY keyboard. It's also word prediction, so you can see it already typed this is I'm just hitting the space bar here to take the suggested words. Now you can turn that off too, for those people who don't like that. Just go into options, text mode, and you can turn off the predictive text. And then when you type, there's no more word predictions coming up. Just send off the message easily enough. Pull up the main menu, and we'll go into the web browser. This is a pretty slow connection because there's no 3G data on the SCP-2700. So we're looking at 1xRTT data. Pulls up the Sprint portal by default. We're going to mosey on over to favorites instead. I'm going to pull up the MobileBurn webpage just so you can see what it looks like. This is the mobile formatted version of the site, of course. It doesn't handle complex HTML sites. All in all, seems to work pretty well as far as simple browsers go. It does give you the flexibility of setting a new home page, the favorites, which we already showed. So it's not the worst browser we've seen in general. The SCP-2700 supports Sprint's navigation system, which has been developed by Telenav. You can see it has turn-by-turn navigation, searching for local points of interest, and current maps. Uses a GPS to get a signal relatively quickly, but while the signal for GPS location is found quickly, mapping data, the mapping images themselves, often come up very slowly because of the lack of 3G connection. In fact, sometimes they don't really seem to come up at all. But when it does work, it seems to be okay. You can see I-95, which is next to where we're located, has a lot of traffic at the moment. I've got the 2700's email client loaded at the moment, and I quickly configured a Gmail account. You can see it works pretty well. It's pretty easy to navigate. You move to the left column for selecting messages, multiple messages at one time, for bulk things like delete. You can change folders, and you can switch tabs to contacts or home and things like that. And for those of you that prefer your messaging instant in nature, there's also a decent IM client that supports AOL Instant Messenger, MSN Live, and Yahoo Instant Messaging. A quick demo of the camera. If you press the camera shutter button once, it brings up a menu of options, one of which is the camera itself. Press the shutter button again to activate. We've got the camera loaded. Taking a photo is pretty simple. You just point and shoot. You can press either the shutter button or the center button on the D-pad. Once you have the photo, you can take a new picture, you can send it off somewhere, print it, or you can upload it to the Sprint online upload area. And now you can see the photo is queued for uploading. We'll jump into the Tools menu so you can see some of the other organizer type applications that are on board. There's of course clocks, calculators, calendars. Bluetooth support as well. No stereo Bluetooth. There's actually no music player in the device and no FM radio, so it wouldn't make much sense. Countdown timer, stopwatch, and the ability to update the firmware over the air. There's no firmware updates available at the moment though. So that's our quick look at the Sanyo SCP-2700, an entry-level messaging device for Sprint. I'm not real pleased with the appearance. It's a little odd looking. There's a lot of weird design aesthetics involved here. But the QVGA resolution display isn't too bad, and the QWERTY keyboard's quite nice except for the backlighting. So again, Sanyo SCP-2700. I'm Michael Orrell for MobileBurn.com.